Baby. There we go, baby.
Let's get into it. 1, 2, 3. Let's get some more. Have it in. Get some more. Just get some more.
All right, sorry about that. I had people screaming in the background how he had a child run into something amidst what was going on there. So we are talking about the My Whiskey Den year in review. And next week, we're going to be discussing our Craft Whiskey Awards, which we can go over our categories and let people know what our big 6, 7, maybe we cut it down to somewhere.
Ish
is fine. So my apologies about that, and I just distracted amidst that little intro there for a second. So thank you everyone for joining us. We really appreciate you stopping in this Monday night. We're going to be talking about some of the highlights and things we remember from this past year that stand out to us. But before we go any further, Mike, do you want to tell people about the Bar Cart Co-op?
Man, I would love to tell people about Bar Cart Co-op. Oh, clickety click. All right. The Bar Cart Co-op is a collection of friends who create content for the whiskey and other distilled spirits public. The Bar Cart Co-op YouTube and Facebook pages have information about upcoming and past special shows, which happen about every quarter. From blind tastings to distiller panels to discussion of special collaborations and the usage of unique grains, the Bar Cart Co-op has educational and fun episodes for your enjoyment. In the Bar Cart Co-op, the oldest show that's on there is Distillers Talk, hosted by Alan Bishop and Christy Atkinson. It's a conversation with people from distilleries and distillery adjacent that gets into the weeds with their interviews. New episodes arrive at the end of the work week. And if that one's not nerdy enough, you go to One Piece at a Time Distilling Institute. This is where Alan Bishop answers any questions about distilling and often puts them to the test. It could be individual grains, pieces of equipment, mash bills, or methodology, or history. New episodes come out randomly, so subscribe. And then we have the Bourbon Turntable, where they mix the love of music with the love of whiskey, with Kevin and Drew and their conversations with musicians, writers, distillery folks, and common folks like us about, you guessed it, music and whiskey. It releases every Wednesday on all your platforms, including YouTube. Now, they did just have last week part 1 of yet another wonderful two-parter with Miss Nancy Fraley and a couple of bass players and Mr. Alan Bishop. And they were talking Nancy's whiskey, including the Joseph Magnus batch 187, which is named Bourbon Turntable because she likes Kevin and the show. So check that one out. And then also upcoming Bourbon Turntable, they're doing their year in review live on January 10th. So we'll see what happens with that.
That's crazy.
So check them out. Then you also have If You Have Ghosts, You Have Everything, which is a show about spirits and the paranormal among us, as well as the unexplained and the spiritual. Subscribe on Spotify to get all 3 previous seasons and the current 4th season. And last but not least, we have Whiskey Ring Podcast with David Levine. David gets into the weeds, interviewing people that he finds very interesting. Please check him out. He's got great whiskey reviews on his website and also does a pretty good podcast. And's a nice fella, so we welcome him.
He's even got a couple of whiskey selections you can purchase as well. His Jack Daniel's Rye was pretty tasty. I had a little snitch of the
yeah,
but which we're gonna
that Jack Daniel's Rye, Jack Daniel's single barrel proof rye was very sneaky at 133.9 proof. It is, I've said this about other things before, but I 100% absolutely guarantee this one. It drinks well below that proof. like bad. I was given a glass at Kevin's because he picked up a bottle, and it's like, oh, this is really great. And the end of the night, it's like, you know what? I think I'll end on one more of those, and I should not have ended on one more of those. It it hit like a freight train later. It's not like I was drinking 3 or 4 ounces of it, but yeah, it was really good, very impressive, and I was very thankful to have it because I can't get single barrel proof rye around me.
Yeah, it's hard to get some of the little more in-depth ones at most places.
Yes.
Outstanding. All right. Well, also a show coming up, like we said, next Monday is going to be our craft whiskey award show. Then on the 15th, we are going to have Richard and James on from Island Getaway Rum. We have five plethora, 5 banger. It's going to be awesome. I'm excited about it. And they all have, a couple of those have like unique flavors. One's an orange kind of base. There's a dark rum. There's some, I think there's a coconut one in there as well too. So there's a variety, and besides knowing them and it being good, they are once again a very reasonably priced rum if you're on the market. So that's one of the things, like when we were talking brandy in Wisconsin and how Dancing Go was trying to hit, if you're going to compete, you have to hit a certain price point. Well, I think Island Getaway Rum, I think, is in a very competitive price point for what else is out there. Extremely. Besides it being good on its own, it'd be hard to turn down a bottle after a sampling for the price that it is. So that's that in of itself is a compliment, because that's hard to do. So we have that. But like I said, tonight we're here to talk about some things that happened this year. But I'm going to have to start on something. I need something in my glass. What do you guys have in your glass? What are the people out in the chat having theirs this evening?
Go, Mitch.
Mine's from this tiny craft distillery that doesn't put out too much. Ooh, you got the honey run.
Yeah.
You still have some of that left?
Well, not anymore. Shake that up or in here.
So I'm doing Four Roses Small Batch Select. I had a pal over, and he saw my bottle of Four Roses, and he's like, "That's what got me into whiskey. I had it at my wedding." And I was like, "Oh, cool." And I saw it, and it made me think of him. I'm drinking it again.
Very cool.
Very nice. Mike, what are you sipping on?
I'm having a cast strength single barrel from Barrel House that I picked up last time I was on Kentucky and went there, met Mitch and Morgan. We had some, what was the place called? The place we ate? I can't remember now. The something. It's connected to Barrel House, so you can look it up. The food was pretty interesting and a tasty food. But
the tavern,
the tavern?
It was the tavern, the Barrel House Tavern.
Oh, it was
Pretty
okay.
easy.
I was thinking it had like another name to it, like Franklin's Tavern or anyway.
Spence is going to Denver. A good look on the trip. There's a lot of neat things to see in Denver, let alone some of the surrounding areas. So
yeah,
hopefully we get to break free for a bit.
If you get to venture out, which I know it's a couple hours from Denver, but if you were to go to beautiful Buena Vista and visit Deerhammer, they've got some pretty darn cool distillery exclusives there that you can pick up. And then also, as Neil said, Leopold, of course.
Mm-hmm. Let him make that decision.
Is from Fair Play, and holy guacamole, surprise hit. So this is Snitching Lady Distillery out of Fair Play, Colorado. Great story.
Put that back up again, will you?
Yeah, switch them over.
So
bourbon.
Bourbon. So Snitching Lady, it's named after a snitching lady. Surprise, surprise. Guy was perhaps moonshining, perhaps. And he had a lady snitch on him. So he's like, I guess I'm going legal because I make good stuff. Put that out. Direct fired stills. 15 months old. Absolutely fantastic.
Really?
That's very
And Talnua would be another one.
Mm-hmm.
I got to get a hold of some Talnua someday.
They're both very good. All right. So, what what about this year? Anything that jumped out? I have a little list of some things here, but is there anything? What are some things that popped out to you from this year as good, bad, interesting, something that was memorable?
I joined. Yay.
That is okay. That is definitely one of my things on here. It is. Mitch went through the live interview process, kind of like we did with when Kelly Ripple Regis and Kelly when she left, and you had to have some.
Mitch is way better than Kelly Ripa.
I'm not saying we had
I'm
people
looking
on.
at
He
these,
came in for like interviews. He came in for interviews.
Looks
but
are
yeah,
not
better than
everything, and
Kelly.
even still, not my bag.
I don't like them. I just when he came on for like a little interview session, and then yes, Mitch was brought on the show. It was fantastic. 100% one of the best things that happened this year. Oh, Kevin snuck in. Well, happy New Year to you. He had a hell of a year this year. We're just talking about all the things that happened to you. Like having a whiskey named after your show. That's pretty sweet.
That's pretty awesome.
It's pretty awesome.
Yeah. So anyone who's watching, listening, or whatever, Joseph Magnus, number 187, batch 187. That's the one. If you find it, get a hold of us. It'll have a home.
Mm-hmm.
That is the bourbon turntable blend, and we need help finding it.
So that's another big thing. I was gonna say getting that named after Kevin's show. That's pretty amazing. Sorry, I love it.
Yeah.
That's pretty sweet having Nancy do that. Then again, discussing the bass player list you guys were doing last week was pretty sweet. I was really enjoying that half of who affected who. And I like the live action kind of changing of the list that Alan was doing. Now that you've mentioned that, I don't have to have him on my list.
Yeah. I liked it because I was not expecting for people to mention low-hanging fruit. And I really dug the fact that there was no low-hanging fruit, at least in my opinion, mentioned as far as the list so far. Now I know we're not at everyone's number one and number two, but still it was the ones that were mentioned. It was like, oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty sweet. So
and good reasoning. Sorry. So yeah, Mitch auditions for the show. I had that on here.
Whiskey dance moms.
So that is a big thing. I was gonna say we did an Easter and a Christmas food pairing this year.
Yeah.
And I think which one do you think went better?
Easter.
Yeah. Sorry.
I enjoyed them both.
It did, but the marzipan cookie was terrible.
Oh my god.
That's it. We're in agreement. That ruined whatever was going with it.
The marzipan cookie it paired well with a milkshake because you needed something very thick and viscous with a lot of flavor to counteract how dry and bland that was.
Yeah, it's like suck the water out of your mouth. So no, but yeah, the Easter one was better, but I do remember having a little sugar rush after the episode.
Yes, I was sick from the sugar.
I remember that now.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yep. That stood out.
Eat as little as possible.
The Christmas cookies, Christmas ones, that did a little number on me also, but not nearly, because the Easter one was just, I
felt so bad afterwards that I threw away most of the candy. That was all I had, because it's I only have bad memories of this now.
I took all the Christmas cookies, took the leftovers, and put them all upstairs for anyone to have. It's upstairs because I'm in the basement. If that's not evidence enough, besides the torture racks that you can't see. But I took him upstairs and I said, "Hey, have at it, free will, whatever." I think one or two people took a nibble, didn't touch anything. I kept the pfeffernuss behind because I was going to go back and go through some stuff with the pfeffernuss. I just threw away the pfeffernuss tonight because I never did. Because every time that I come down and look at it, it's like, no, because I know it's going to be multiple pfeffernuss and multiple whiskeys, and I just can't do it.
I ate all of the leftover cookies, barring the marzipan ones. May they burn in an appropriate place. I think within 3 days.
It's not bad.
No, I took the back. One of them I forgot about, and it came on a trip with me. Got eaten on the trips.
Road
down for a few more.
Yeah. Oh, and Battle of the Peeps. Was it like peep jousting?
Peep jousting.
See?
It's the only good thing to do with peeps because they are disgusting. If you like them, I'm sorry, but mostly for you. But it's just no. Blow peeps up in the microwave.
Yeah. So I do remember that. But yeah, I was sugared up afterwards, man. It's like trying to wait to come down. It's not good. Like I could just feel the sugar rushing. And I normally love all the things we had that night. Not necessarily the peeps, but I do find them edible. And every now and then I crave a peep, but it's getting fewer and fewer. Now, if you're a peep person, are you a peep right out of the package? Or some people like to have them get like stale a day and then have a peep?
A package peeper or a procrastination peeper? That's what you're trying to say?
No, they literally like it like after it's got like a little air to it where it gets like a little hard, like a little.
Oh, you don't want
outside.
the peep neck pour.
The peep pour. That's a short neck. It is fat.
It is unless you stretch it out, which is
Put
possible.
it in the microwave. You can get a big neck. Maybe that's how I got mine.
Woo!
Marshmallow peeps. Ooh. Do they make marshmallow peeps without the sugar on them though?
I don't think that's real.
If they did, but I could see hanging on to them and then like rinsing the sugar off and then putting it in your hot chocolate.
I think even if you had a peep, I think if you put it in the microwave for a couple of seconds to let it get like squishier and then threw it in hot chocolate, maybe it'd be plausible.
Yeah, but the sugar.
Too much sugar?
Yeah.
It would have to be a very large hot chocolate or partial peeps. In my opinion.
Peep. Just the head of a peep.
Peep guts. Just hollow them out.
Oh, that's true. They make so I've seen like bunnies and stuff for Easter of the peeps.
Kevin, you're not starting off the new year very well.
Or is he?
These peeps are number 14 on the list, bro.
If you have some whipped bourbon peeps.
Yeah.
Oh, my stomach literally hurt when you said that. Oh. Because I was thinking about like butter infusing whiskey, and then it just went to peep infusing whiskey.
Ooh, instead of fat washing, peep washing.
Peep washing.
My stomach hurts now.
Okay.
Oh, man.
I do think though that would have its place in a cocktail if you did a peep wash.
Peep wash.
You did a peep wash because somebody's done a marshmallow wash.
Oh yeah.
But a peep wash cocktail. Kevin's a former champion. I think he could probably come up with something that would go with it. But
how can you not name it the peeper?
I mean, yeah. Richard's a bartender. Richard would probably come up with something that would be pretty good too.
I mean, the Robinsons have won quite a few as well. So pretty much anyone but me is probably a great shot at like making a good cocktail.
There goes that rest of
the I make 2 cocktails. That's basically it.
That's all you need. Maybe getting greedy.
Yeah.
I think I make like 1 to 2 cocktails a year, maybe. I don't know.
Oh, wait, hold on. Not that that's not right. S'mores peep. You see? Look at that, Mike. S'mores peep explanation. See? It sounds interesting. I think that's doable.
It would be the thing that would I still think the sugar could be an issue, but I guess if you were
You can
to
shake some off. I mean, just
if you were to do the peep wash and then maybe use a creme brulee torch.
yeah.
So yeah, I mean, well, you would not add any sweetener to the cocktail, right? Because it would already be a sweet whiskey. So you wouldn't be adding the simple or whatever.
Oh, you flaming
marshmallow.
malt.
Oh, what if you had something like the previously mentioned Deer Hammer with its delicious chocolate malt, and you had that, and you did the peep wash and did the creme brulee torch on there. You could probably make a s'more. Yeah,
flaming
like
peep floater.
Yeah, what did Richard call it? Yeah, s'mores
flaming
peep.
peep floater.
That sounds something
I
you
would compare peeps to another floater personally, but
I'm just going for the visual on it. So
it would be great looking.
Just soak a little, like a peep ear, soak it in like 151 or something. That's got to reach.
I mean, you're making peep better, right? Like, hey, I like 151.
I think this sounds like a contest where you see how many peeps you can stuff into your mouth, but you still have to be able to take a sip of whiskey with all those peeps in your mouth.
That challenge went from cocktail to something completely different.
What was that? What's that? Fluffy Bunny? Is that what that game's called with marshmallows or something like that?
I don't know.
No?
Okay, I'm the only one who.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yep, maybe traumatized.
A little bit.
I don't know. That sounds like an adult film.
Yeah.
Fluffy Bunny? Quite possibly.
Yeah,
I think that's White Christmas adult film, actually. So yeah, no, there was a game at camp where you had to put as many marshmallows in your mouth as you could and say like Fluffy Bunny, and like it had to be coherent, and the person who could have the most marshmallows in their mouth and say it won.
How many times did people choke during?
Chubby Bunny. All right, sorry. Morgan said it. Chubby Bunny.
Yeah, everybody else knows this game. So Morgan, Emily, and Kevin all know this game.
I knew I wasn't crazy.
We can give it a whirl, but not till Easter.
That reminds me. It's probably the same principle because you can't speak. Have you seen the game where people put those dental dams in and then they have to say phrases, and then they get mad because people can't understand what they're saying, and they're going and they're just spitting all over the place. That's pretty darn funny.
So Morgan wants us to play, but if we do, Morgan has to clean up the aftermath from me.
Peeps. I know you're not a big peep. What if you just do normal marshmallows? Would that make it better?
Maybe.
I think you kind of have to do.
But you're losing the sugar rush from the peep washing through there. The alcohol is going to soak up some of that. Melt it down.
Does not work that way.
You could almost do one of those couples games, where they would do, or like you put like a cracker on them, and then you have to like have your hands behind your back, and you got to like take the cracker off of your significant other's face, whatever. You could do one with peeps where you lick the sugar on the peep, stick it to their forehead or something, and then you got to go in there and do that. I think you and Morgan need to initiate that.
What if you're allergic?
I like Morgan's last
to
comment.
the peep thing, and you just have this weird bunny symbol on your head now.
I think we should highlight Morgan's last comment, if you don't mind, because this might be why we're dating.
Oh, it might be.
Might be.
Oops, sorry.
Oh, that's right.
Absolutely.
It's true.
With printers. I don't think there are two more worse inanimate objects on the face of this planet than printers and peeps.
Mm. Mm. The honey on this
Hey,
is
maybe we should talk about the year in review instead of my
Yes.
peeps. I'm sorry.
And yeah, I don't know anything about dental dam, whatever.
well, I don't yet.
Now you're making things like, maybe dental dam's something really weird.
He's backpedaling back.
Nah, I stand by what I said, because if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. That's fine.
Oh, all right. Well, I was gonna say,
Yeah, Richard, I hope you're ready to play some games in a couple weeks when you're on. We all chant Pete, 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 Pete.
That's an intimidating word chant right there.
It's in the movie Hop 3, for God's sake. No, I'm just kidding.
Or you bring on
Mhm.
you guys, right? We watched it because it was funny, Jimmy Neutron. But in the Jimmy Neutron movie that they did, the alien planet that they go to is their leader, or not their leader, but their the leader's whatever monster was called Poltra. That was a big bird. So if you chant Pete, 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 Poltra comes to attack you.
That's funny. I can plan on that. All right. Next on my list of things. To move down the list after Easter candy is we actually had the people from Edelbrand on, which was neat for me because I was starting to get into brandy, but the way they do it is the incredibly slow, and I like how they phrased it, nano batch. It's fair, but what they had was crisp and clean and incredibly good. So as far as like a highlight in the first half of the year, that might have been a distillery that stood up when we talk like distillery of the year, where you have like 4 or 5, like what your lineup you put out is good. Their whole lineup is very good for what they're putting out. They don't really have a miss, so that is fantastic, especially with infusing plum and dill. The dill one I was concerned about, right?
So
but it was good. So
everything they had was amazing. Even the things that I knew I wouldn't like, I loved. And that was because, like, if you're like, oh, I distilled an IPA, I'm like, cool. No.
Yeah.
But you know, they were on the show, so I was gonna do it, and I was like, oh my god, this is good.
what did you guys do?
I know. So
I
that
feel
was the
the
other
same
thing.
way about IPA distilled everything.
So that was. I would like to offer a shout out to them, because coming from Heaven Hill and then seeing that, to me, that looked like a way to lose money. Like, it didn't appear to be a profitable business, right? To run a still that slow and make that amazing of cuts, but they exist. So it is not, an unprofitable company. So the fact that they can make something that amazing with that much craftsmanship and turn a profit says a lot about them, not just as distillers, but as business people.
Agreed.
Totally agree. Yeah, that was I guess I'd say the same thing, very surprised on it, because I just heard them on Distillers Talk, and then just happened to look, in the local place down the street from me is the liquor store. They're like, oh, we have tastings this week. Edelbrand's going to be here. So I thought, oh, well, I'll go down there. So went down and introduced myself to Lynn, and she was like, well, you should try this, and you should try this, you should try this, and tried them all. And then she's like, well, I'm going to be back here next Friday, and Kevin was in town that Friday, and it's like, hey, you want to go taste some Edelbrand before we go watch music? We went through that, and as much as which I really did enjoy the brandies, the distilled beer was very impressive, because you knew that came from an IPA. You knew that because it had that it had that DNA to it, but it took the things that are, to me, like, same thing with people that they're Pete snobs, just
Over accentuated.
yeah, how many parts per million is this? So I don't want to have the peatiest thing ever. It doesn't matter if it tastes good. It's like I just want the peatiest thing. Same thing. IPA drinkers like it's this many IBUs. I gotta have this, and that, which is fine. I mean, that's your rush, that you want to have. But it had that DNA to it without having any of that extra stuff associated with it. Because I'm just not. I'm okay with IPAs, but I also don't drink much beer. But that was very tasty because we've had whiskeys that were IPA whiskeys and they were just not good.
Yeah.
But that was really good. But that Russian Imperial Stout was that I've got a bottle of that, and I still want to. I want to practice martinis, and I want to use that as a martini, and because they had said that with like a chocolate martini would be really good. I did do the IPA one and treated it like a gin and tonic. It was really good.
Yeah.
So
they had were you talking about the stout one at one point? I thought they had a stout one too.
The Russian Imperial Stout. Yeah, that one. It's so chocolate. I mean, it's just, yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say, and hey, Pete, thanks for doing that, Mitch. You're already on top of it. Good to see you here. All right. Well, I've tossed out a couple. What are some things that you guys that jumped out to you so far?
Mike?
I mean, yeah,
America and other things. So
Elbrand was one. I mean, and I was writing down, and I was going through the calendar because I was thinking, how many whiskey trips did I get to take this year? And I got to take 7, which was more than I thought. Now 3 of them were Kentucky. However, but there's always something different, on there. But I, did one Texas trip down to Iron Root, which was always great to go to Iron Root. That was fantastic. But then, I did my first stand in line. I'll call it tater line because Peerless was releasing their high rye that morning. But went out. John Wadle was out there. He was serving his stave and bean and talked with John, and so then Kevin went to go get one. So they're like, we stood in line with all the people with their backpacks and everything else, getting their signed bottles and stuff. And I mean, it was fun. I'd say it was fun. But obviously, Distill America, it was great to go back there. The outdoor venue is fantastic. I think it's just I'm really looking forward to going back this year. I liked everything about it. And then there's another trip to Kentucky, but it also involved Spirits of French Lick. I got to stop in at Kentucky Artisan for a brief visit with Ben. And then the last Kentucky visit, which was Bourbon on the Banks. And then going, meeting Mitch and Morgan for lunch and walking around Barrel House. That was and Bluegrass and tasting that 160 proof blue corn new make. Dear God, if they couldn't lose money bottling that. I mean, that stuff was just it was fantastic. Golden Beaver was a definite highlight distillery visit, mostly because of just the hospitality itself. And then the last one was heading up to Green Bay.
It's a slash whiskey trip.
Well, I mean, we did visit a distillery.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
I didn't get that.
Couldn't hear anything. Not at the distillery, but else, and that's the one thing. It was kind of I was really looking forward to recording people trying stuff. But yeah, I posted that video on there. I cannot stress to you how bad all the audio was, and it was because there was the
speakers,
Van Halen's 1979 Wall of Sound aiming at us. There was no escaping it. No way to get around it. Couldn't go anywhere to go at least away from that to get people to try stuff. There was no getting around it. So there's zero audio available, which is unfortunate because there were some really, really nice people. Actually, surprisingly, a lot of people came up from Kansas City to Green Bay, and it was really interesting with them because they all knew we had Riegers. They all knew Riegers, and some people were really excited to see Riegers, and other people were just like, "Is that do you have anything else from Kansas City?" It's like, well, we have this Edelbrand, and they never heard of it, and they were all very, they were very surprised because they're like, we've never heard of this. Like, well, it's because it's not everywhere. You got to be.
One guy freaked out. This is like 10 miles from my house.
I know, yeah, yeah.
I'm like, yeah, just drive over there. They'll be happy to sell you something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So anyway.
Yeah, that was the downside to that, but I think seeing what that was, being able to do it again and maybe altering where the table might be more up by the road, away from that, or there might not have been a professional tailgating crew that had came in, might have slightly adjusted that maybe differently. But yeah, but as far as the tasting went, there was more than enough people happy to try everything. So,
oh yes, some people made many repeat visits.
Someone ran off with a J. Rieger bottle.
Yeah,
it's a little smaller one I had. All of a sudden, someone's like, "Well, what do I have to do to get this?" I mean, you got to come back a few times. I'm like, "Or we're gonna leave in like 20 minutes, and if it happens to be on the table, you can pour yourself." And he kind of looked away. And he kind of just grabbed the top and kind of put it under his jacket. And I just turned around and went, Have a good day, sir. He came back before we left and it was empty.
The late donation from Paradise North of their bottles, those went over very well. Especially the people wanting to go through the rums because most people would want to do all three of the rums that they had. And they got hit pretty hard by a few people.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I thought was actually
coming back.
What was pretty interesting is that the rums we ended up doing kind of streaks of ryes, bourbons, and whatever. Like, what do you like? Yeah. Okay, here, hit up these three.
Yeah,
the rum was quite a bit.
Yeah, and to be totally honest, a lot of the rum was just getting shot.
Mm-hmm.
They would just come back there. Can I try these rums again? They were like, I'd like to try all three. Sure, you can try all three. Great. Boom, boom, boom. and
Which
then
one
they come back
better?
20 minutes later. Yeah.
Like, I forgot which one was the best. Can I try them again?
Yeah. Well,
who won?
Right, which is why we were only doing like quarter ounce pours and stuff. We weren't trying to take anyone down. We were. You respectfully drink at your own risk, and we didn't overserve anybody. Though we did collect enough. I don't know. I want to say a decent amount for them. At the end of the night, we had a healthy box full of money.
Yeah, all going to the veterans, which was great.
Mm-hmm. So who won? I don't remember.
Who won the game?
Or who won the tasting?
Based off, right? What state?
The tasting overall, I would say Wisconsin did, based on all the comments and everything else as an overall.
Mm-hmm.
I'll also say we had more offerings from Wisconsin than we did Missouri, and some of that, the late Paradise North that weighed into it. Pat brought the bottle of J. Henry. And that
was part of
that rye was pretty hard to beat.
I was going to say the Rieger, for me, the toughest one that I like seeing people do is the Rieger rye versus the J. Henry rye.
Yes.
They were both neat, different ryes and bold in a little different area where I'd say between the two, the Rieger rye has a little more kind of peppery note to it. And J. Henry's got a little more herbal note hidden in it, though they both have grain-forward flavors.
Yeah.
I think that's a good way to put that.
Rieger's Kansas City whiskey, there wasn't a comparison to it. Wisconsin wise, because it wasn't a fair comparison to the Wisconsin bourbons. But there was a lot of people, they wanted it. Like they went out and they're like, oh, I would choose this because they loved it. That was their thing. And they like to do their mixers or on ice and whatever. And it's fine. And, again, there's nothing wrong with it, but
Just never.
there wasn't enough AB on there, but brandy wise, it was pretty darn close.
Mm-hmm.
It was really, really close. The Edelbrand's got the most raised eyebrows. I will say that because it was clear, and they're like, oh, clear. It's like, just, yeah. And there was a lot of that with the Edelbrand.
And there was, I think they had the most. Someone told me about this when someone was coming back to the table.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
someone told me about the apple brandy. Where is it? Okay.
Yeah.
And there were a couple people that just couldn't take any booze whatsoever in my mind.
Well, there was that one nice young lady.
There was two.
She kept coming back, and then she would just.
I wasn't talking about her.
She would just come back and she'd just smile. It's like, which one would you like to try? And then she would just point. She'd go over here. She was ditching her husband and coming over and getting samples. And then he came over more than once. He came over and was like, hey, you need to quit. We got to go inside, whatever. Then they had a little side conversation, and then she'd come back and get some more stuff. And, we weren't getting in the middle of anything. And then she ditched him another time, and she comes over there and she had made a friend and she was sampling stuff. And then he found her, and then they left, and she left her glove. So I ran after her and said, hey, is this your wife's glove? And he was like, oh. I gave him the glove, and she came back one more time. And she was just tiny little thing.
But it's not at any point where she seemed over the limit or anything.
Or anything like that. She was, and again, I mean, we had these little tiny, like, I don't even think they were quarter ounce. It might have been 1/8 ounce at the most.
It's like a quarter is what it should have been, but who knows?
Yeah.
Towards the end, it was the little balls started to get hard, a little bit more frozen, so pouring.
Yeah.
Okay, you get 3 tries. Start to shake the damn thing.
Just open your mouth.
You could have gone that route too. So, yeah, tasting wise, neat for a first one. If we did it there again, obviously could readjust, but the amount of people trying things, I think, was the target goal. Maybe how and stuff like that a little different, but the end target was having a bunch of people try stuff, and they really did start to branch out and try a few different things. So that part was the end goal was excellent. So
yes, I unfortunately, no usable audio or video.
Here's what it is.
I didn't get that.
Yeah.
Could you?
Sorry.
Yeah. Well, that's because she's lying, because you have the video of the cake cutting. It's just the greatest thing ever.
Yeah. It was very sweet. There was a wedding there, and then it was they're like, oh, and we helped him set up. Yeah. And he said, where do you want this? Oh, right here. That'd be a great place for the altar. And it was like, altar. No, it was the altar. It was a wooden spool, an old wooden cable
spool
that was used for an altar, and he performed a wedding for a couple. But there was a mixed marriage. She was a Packers fan. He's a Chiefs fan, and but when they were cutting the cake, the wall of sound. It was just like this endless stream of tailgating music, and it was not knocking it. I mean, it was fine. It was tailgating music.
Yeah.
However, I looked it up once, and I don't remember what the song was, but based on the lyrics, you can
that ass.
But the song that was playing loudly during the cake cutting ceremony was talking about, I'll flip you over, slap that ass, hit you from behind. That was for the cutting of the cake, and like the whole wedding party, including the young teen kids, who were part of the wedding party. They're all everyone's out there doing it. I'm like, wow.
Mike and I stopped and videotaped it for a second. There was people at the table like, "What are you doing?" We're like, "I think they're cutting the cake."
Yeah, yeah. Don't you like to slap that when you're cutting the cake?
That was imagery of later that evening. It's just this whole, but it was fun. So, all right. I'm gonna go back to Still America for me. I had a couple things there. Kevin's little discussion with Rabbit Hole was awesome. That's fantastic. And there, the spiced pear liqueur from
St. George.
St. George was something that for me is, and if you're watching, it'll probably be sneaking up on a list next week. I don't know where, but it will be on one of them because that was a really, really nice surprise. There's always one at Distill American for me. I don't know if I missed it in years past, but that was delicious.
That really surprised me because when we went to the St. George booth, and I don't see a lot of St. George stuff around me, and I was like, oh, I could try some stuff. I want to make sure to try that St. George single malt, and then the nice lady that was working there, she was just a hired booth person, but because it was like, what do you like? I don't really drink this stuff, but after trying a couple of things, she's like, you really should try this. Everybody says it's really good, and I think it might even been the Ewalds who said, or the Robinsons, one of them who was like, did you try that? And I tried it, and it was like, holy crap.
Yeah, well, that was one from there. I like the new venue from where it was at. Almost infinite room to expand for them there. When they're there, if they want to add more people or make it bigger. So that was neat. I got to see everyone there. The Robinsons came. They got weddled later that night.
Yes, they did.
They got weddled. That was great to be a part of another weddling for some people who are
Neil with this perfect dump technique. You try it. Okay.
I bet that one's been in several.
And those random people that were there that just became part of it.
Hey, since you won't leave.
Yeah. It just includes a whole nother family that's helped by the fire pit. Are you here? Good. Then you're involved.
Here.
Grab
Hold
a
this
glass.
glass. This is going in it. It's delicious.
Hey, well, they loved it. They weren't expecting that for an evening. Like, then this is this. And you and Morgan were actually you guys were great brand reps that evening.
Yeah, Mitch had the controlled pours, and Morgan was Morgan. She's sold. I mean, she was really good, obviously, with her brother's stuff, but yeah, she was
great.
I would say an apprehensive brand rep in the beginning, but she did an awfully darn good job.
Mm-hmm.
She's not just pretty.
She have brains.
All right. Well,
but yeah, Distill America was like, gosh, my brain just shut off. I was going to say it, a bookmark for the year for me. Like, I remember Distill America very well, and it was a blast. And like, we're already planning on going back. So,
and you got to go to New Glarus. The neat thing is you can always filter in a couple things when you come up. There's a lot going on in the southern half of the state, so you can usually fit something else in. So let's see. Other things I was excited about. Oh, we got to talk to Paul from MB Roland. So we were going to talk to someone else when they poor guy broke his leg on the motorcycle. So Paul got elevated to the table, which when I first talked to him, he thought he was coming to Green Bay for a tasting.
Yeah.
Not doing one. He's like, well, how many bottles do you want me to bring in this? He's like, I'm like, no matter how much I would love for you to come and bring these bottles, and it's a virtual tasting. It's not a live. It's not a live one. Oh, that's awesome.
You should have been like, dude, you've got to bring at least a few dark fired. We can't get them here in Wisconsin. And when he shows up, just have him beside you in the tasting. And see.
Yeah. So who's in the tasting? Just you and me, buddy.
We're here all night. How's it going? But I know Mitch, that's like one of your favorite craft distilleries. So I was happy to get them on as well too.
They're amazing. Like Paul is amazing. Dark Fired whiskey changed my view on American whiskey when I had it. Everything they do is good. Like their rye is spectacular. Their moonshines, I'm not a flavored moonshine fan. I'll say that. So if you're a flavored moonshine fan, check them out. But the whiskey, oh my God, so good.
I agree. that's why I
Totally agree.
That dark fire. Sorry, Mike, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh no, go ahead. Sorry.
Just the dark fire for me when I first had it, and I think Jeffrey Patron sent me a sample back in the day, and I was like, oh my God, this is American smoke. Like I had Pete Skyline. This is like I had it. I'm like, this isn't Pete. This isn't Pete. It's not trailing on trying to be that, but this is an American version that
white corn.
Yeah, smoked white. No one's ever used that before 5 years ago.
Except for MB Roland and a bunch of people before them.
Yeah.
However.
Except for all those people who used that. We'll get to that in a minute.
They were very, and that was that was a fun interview too, because Mary Beth didn't, she wasn't going to be on, didn't want to be on there, but she was also, and he'd go, what? Oh yeah, that's right. And then she was like, I'm not going to be part of this, but she was passing on information to them. But they were, and they were both at Bourbon on the Banks, and it was nice to catch up with them. And they were great. And again, the whiskey, that dark fired, the first thing I ever had there is I got a sample of the dark fired rye. So it was a while ago. And I tried, and it was like that. And I asked him, he's like, "Yeah, we're not making that." It's like, well, you should, because that was, it was really good. It was totally different because it was just a different smoke show, and same thing with that dark fired bourbon, and the corn, that the barrel picks of the corn, because I saw there was I picked one up at Westport, and then when I was going to Wisconsin, stopped there at Nemeth, they had one.
And good one too.
I tried it. I was up there like, oh my God, this stuff is amazing, and it's a steal. It's under $40.
Yeah, right.
For that high of proof. Oh my God, it was stupid.
So MB Roland, until I had their mint julep moonshine, produced nothing I did not like. But I hate mint juleps.
So do I. I'm with you on that.
So that was the first miss I've ever had from MB Roland. But other than that, everything is good. And they put out perhaps more variety than any other craft distiller that I've ever seen in my life. Because they have, 4 different dark fired whiskeys, plus the rye that they discontinued. Then they have all their bourbons, their wheated bourbons, their ryes, their corn whiskeys, all their moonshine.
A big lineup too.
And then their unaged versions, I think, of all of them. And their brandies and their hemped bourbons and all these other special editions that they put out. And it's just the only reason you will not like something of theirs is because you do not like the flavor of that. Right? I don't like their mint julep moonshine because I don't like mint juleps. If you don't like strawberries, you won't like their strawberry moonshine. That's just, that's all it is.
Be a hell of a left turn if someone. Take that one time I had an IPA whiskey and I was like, oh, I didn't hate this. Good for you.
Well,
you took something I don't like and you made it okay. Kudos. You have no idea how good I think you did.
Are you talking about the Amador hopped?
A little, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's weird. So weird.
I know, so weird and so good. I'm gonna have some of this. I was only gonna have one thing, but now I'm gonna have that. So
I like that. All right. So other stuff we did this year, we jumped a little heavier into cocktails on some stuff. We did a few cocktail shows this year, which was kind of neat. And we'll give a kudos to.
I need to do more.
We need to do more. I'm going to give a shout out to Adina Ewell for winning a competition.
The champ.
Yeah.
Oh, getting to try that cocktail.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
There's a reason it won like People's Choice and Judge's Choice.
Now, I know, yes, it's her wonderful brain and great personality and everything else that's part of it. But we cannot understate the work of her manservant Dave and everything that he did for that too, because he was on point with all, even, I wasn't there for the event, but listening to them talk about the setup and everything else, it's like they are a team.
Yeah. Pre-batching it, setting it up, have everything scaled appropriately.
There were not a lot. So just to talk about that, there were not a lot of places that had pre-batched well. Like,
well,
how many were there? I think 10. And I think only like 3 people pre-batched, and 2 of them added ice to their pre-batch.
Oh,
so it was watering down as the night went on. So like they were like disregard. What's the word I'm looking for? Irregardless of like how the quality of their cocktail, they were the best prepared.
So yeah, wouldn't expect anything less out of them. Plus, I was going to mention the Christmas cocktails, like the 30 days of cocktails they did in December, or 25 countdown the Christmas cocktail thing. You could make a book of that. That could be a book. For that and reasons like that, we delved more into cocktails. We had Richard on again. We had some other people come on and do a few more, because it's neat to see how some people use what we're talking about, because a better ingredient makes a better cocktail. And then seeing how people riff on it is really interesting. What I find neat, because like with that, there's a lot of places that will riff on a cocktail rather than trying to maybe not invent something completely new, because I get, people who've been making cocktails forever. Someone probably made something similar before in the past, but opening up your brain to a new combination of mixtures to create a drink, I think is way more exciting.
Yeah.
Than pulling a riff.
I'd like to see, well, I thought of an event could do an event where for 2 to 3 days you could learn cocktail making techniques, learn how to make some of your ingredients up, hosted by maybe some champions. But if you were to pair that weekend with some live music, like say at a festival, for the Bourbon Turntable Cocktail Festival. So just saying, throwing that one out there. But I know like some of them, like I think Distill America, didn't they do a cocktail thing? But I don't think it was really.
They did an old-fashioned riff with like 4 of them one year.
But it's only, it's pretty narrow. It's not like an in-depth thing where you could go and say, all right, listen, this is what you do when you're making this and you're trying to think of these things and pairing your flavors and doing that like a real in-depth cocktail class.
They have Spirited Women, where if you sat down with them, they have their booth, they would go over that with you, I'm sure, because they're I don't want to call it a group that goes around that you can basically hire. They're very well-trained bartenders and cocktail makers, but they I
remember them from the first year.
Yeah, I was going to say, and they would, I'm sure if you did that, would kind of take it along that line, because I know they went and stole a bottle when I asked about something. I'm like, what do you think it would taste like with that? And she's like, hold on a minute. She went over there and, here you go. Came back over. So, but yeah, it's neat because I like finding ones that are good, but not necessarily super sugary. Because so many
Right.
of them now are just like sugar, and I'm like, and that's what gets you kind of sick the next day. If you have two or three, is the loading up on the sugar. So if you find something that's you maybe have one or
Or
two earlier in the evening, oh, go ahead. What?
let's say, or a lot of ABV like mine.
uh,
Yeah, because so at that same cocktail competition, they had a butterbeer cocktail, and it was like, first sip, oh my god, this is delicious. Second sip, you're like, but it's rich. Third sip, I was like, this is a hangover, because it was just like super sweet and caramely, and it's like, oh yeah, no, I love this, but
but it's too much also.
It's like, yeah, but it's too rich, right? Like, because there was another cocktail there that was too spicy for me, right? Like it was jalapeno something or other, and it was just like I want to drink this because my mouth is on fire and I need to put it out, but it's what's causing the fire. So no.
uh, shit, I ran out there. All right, I gotta have another little sip here before we get done.
Well, that's why I had to have more.
So, and we talked about Paradise North. Tom came on and what they're doing, and they have some whiskey, the 10 Mile, and a couple other ones they released, but their experimental series they're in the process of doing. They had one that had some oatmeal in part of the mash, and it was only 9 months old or so. And like, I'm gonna tell you that one has for me has a lot of hope for the future. The addition
What was the shrub spirit that we had when we were there? It was akin to juniper and cedar.
I know, but was it Hawthorne?
Hawthorne.
Yep, Hawthorne.
A hawthorne spirit. I was
Yeah.
like, what are you going to do with this? And he goes, I don't know. Like, this is weird. I love it.
It was a really neat, yeah. That and a gin or something is a neat mix is what they did to kind of alter it. It had a really different flavor from that. So,
yes.
So Zeron, Tom was great with that. They, like I said, I love that they started doing rums in that mid break where most people do vodkas and everything else. That not that I'm against gin and aquavit and stuff, but it was neat to see someone take an early branch off. Like rum's usually almost one of the last things a lot of people think about unless they're a rum distillery. So it was neat to see someone filter that in because that is something that can fill that early bracket of a distillery. I mean, you can have clear rum come out and within a year or two you have.
So
yes, sir.
Clear rum from Toledo Spirits.
Yeah.
Still one of my all-time favorite rums.
That's delicious. Sorry, we'll have to talk with them again. If not, we get at least taste some of their stuff again live because
we got to figure out if we got a connection there.
They did a really nice job. So
I will say, so we went back up for the holidays, and they had three rums that I didn't have. So I now have all of those. So they've got the clear rum that is absolutely fantastic. And then they had like a 6-month rum, a 1 year aged rum, and a 2 year aged rum. So I picked up all of those while I was there. So it might be fun to have a rum off.
I like that. Oh, and Morgan was mentioned the spicy margarita. I don't know if you had one. Was that from Blom Brothers?
Oh my God.
That Hellfire vodka is legit. One of the few times I've had almost a too spicy Bloody Mary.
That was a too spicy Bloody Mary. Like as someone with stomach issues, like I took a sip of that and was like, I need my medicine.
That was like the fourth spirit. It was in the first half dozen spirits that my friend Matt tried. We stopped at Blom Brothers and he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna try this." Like, you sure? He's like, "Yeah," and it just.
Like
and he was honest with them, you know, and they're like, "What do you think of it?" And I think it was
Matt. Probably.
I think it was Matt.
Yeah, he was
Yeah,
there.
Matt's the one that was there, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So he's like, "What do you think?" And my friend Matt's like, "No," and I got to figure out how to get this out because I got to get this taste out. And it's like, let's go find the cantaloupe liqueur. And so we immediately talked to him for a little bit longer, and it was just festering in Matt's mouth. And so we luckily Natural Spirits is just around the corner, and it's like, hey, and he's like, hey, it's like, all right, we're gonna try this. And Matt tried did the cantaloupe, let it sit in his mouth for a couple seconds, totally killed it.
That's awesome.
He's like, well, we're gonna come back here about every 15 minutes.
Yeah, every so often, just
15 minutes.
Good Lord.
It's listening to you, buddy. It's really paying
It's all listening to us, man.
Other neat things. Dave joined the Bar Cart Co-op as well. Wish you my wedding ring. He joined later in the year, so it's good to have David along with us. What the heck? Yeah, we did an old fashioned. That's kind of rounding out most of it. I was gonna say there might be a few other things that kind of stood out, or one or two drinks throughout the year, but I apologize to Mike. The supper club environment I took him to was fucking god awful. It was a bad mistake. The waiting was normal, okay? The forgetting about us numerically was and the explanation was a bit much for me at that moment.
Waiting while there's nobody in the dining room. and then it was like, why were we waiting? This place is empty.
Yeah, I was just saying.
It's really because they didn't have anybody there.
Yeah, you know? Well, and you could have just said that and I'd have been happy, but telling me, I'm like, well, what number are we on? 33. Well, we're 28, so if it would be great if we could get sat now.
Yeah.
Oh, well, you're just going to have to wait. And then I looked in the room and there's no one there. I'm like, for what? All right, you do whatever.
Math is hard.
Math is tough. Oh, we didn't mention the Alan Bishop experience.
That's fair. The reshocking.
The reshocking. That's true. That came out again. That was actually nice to see on Prime, where you can buy it and have it and not be on DVD. And
yeah, so I made Morgan watch it because we have all these kind of inside jokes about or with Alan, and she was kind of on the fringes of them, and then she watched that and was like, I get a lot of them now. This is so we bought it, we own it. She watched it and she was like, oh my god, right? So I'll have to expose a few other people to the Alan Bishop experience.
Yeah. That my youngest, she turned 21 this year, and she kept saying she wanted to go to Kentucky after she turns 21. And so it just so happened it was Andy's birthday, Andy Kasperzak's birthday. And it's like, all right, well, we'll come out there. So, I mean, we were in Kentucky for less than 24 hours. we went there, we went to dinner, and then the next morning went to Indiana, what, hour and a half, 2 hours away, whatever Jasper is, and then went to Andy's party, and then we barely slept and left from there. So we were in Kentucky. However, she did get to experience, because on the way in town we stopped at French Lick because Alan was there, and they were tasting through barrels, and Ben happened to be there, and Alan was like, well, we just tasted through whatever it was, like 20 barrels or something. He's like, you want to taste through some barrels? And I asked her, I was like, do you want to taste some stuff? And she's like, I don't know. And so we had her, she knows it, didn't really like it, but just rub it on your hands and see what you think, So she did that for 3 or 4 barrels. And then it was just, after that, it's like, no, I'm good. I'm good. So she just tolerated us tasting through stuff until it was done. And then went to Kentucky Artisan. And it's like, she'd been on a distillery tour before. So I told Ben, I'm like, look, we literally have 5 minutes. What do you think is cool that you want to share for 5 minutes? And it was Sensory Lab, and then going over what they were working on. So she got to see that part of it, and it was good. But that was fun because she got to the people that she's heard me talk about. She'd met Ben before, but she got to meet Alan for the first time, and her and Jolie have been texting each other back and forth and stuff. So they finally got to meet in person and stuff. And then we may have filled Julie's purse full of condiments.
That was a game. It's just
Yeah.
a game.
It was a fun game. So that was fun. That was getting to when you get to have family members experience that and experience the people and meet people. That's always a bonus.
Well, and she had a good time when she was there. Like when she went to Bourbon's Bistro, having Mike make a was it non-alcoholic or was it an alcoholic?
Oh, they made her a special cocktail.
Okay. Yeah. Well.
Yeah. Christy and Kelly talked to her about flavors and stuff, and then they said, "Hey, look, she's just turned 21. She likes these flavors. What do you recommend?" So then they just made up a cocktail for her. So she got the recipe for the cocktail. So that was pretty cool.
Oh, hey Donald, good to see you. Happy New Year to you too. The Great White North. It's only a couple miles north of me, so not that far away. Ooh, I'm switching over before we get off here to the Edelbrand one. That's the Winter White Ale Mash. Let's give a little sample of that for Mike. So I'm switching over right before we get off here. Whoa, Jen, it's neat because it's like a clean distilled beer, where otherwise it smells like altered a lot of times once it gets distilled. That's beautiful. So, all right, I don't know what else, anything else here before we hop off that stuck out as exciting, or anything next year you're looking forward to?
Distill America. Also,
Yep.
I'm trying to hit Missouri next year and go to Wood Hat, Edelbrand, possibly J. Rieger. It is on the other side of the state.
It's on the other side of the state.
My brain isn't braining the place I went to, Old Monroe, Stumpy's. Right.
6:30.
Yeah.
There's a couple other ones in there too that would.
And I do want to get up to Holiday. I'd been up to McCormick when they weren't starting the Holiday reconstruction yet, and McCormick is McCormick. I mean, come on, let's face it. But I do still want to get up there. I heard it's a really good tour, and Weston's a fun little town too. So the area around there, so that it would be worth it instead of just going to Rieger, going to Holiday also. But yeah.
Oh,
I want to get back out to Kentucky, which I will, but I got a Texas one coming up at some point when the weather looks good.
I forgot I did 2 barrel picks. So there, I did that too this year.
Nice.
The one was Dry Fly, where at Namath they picked their first all single grain, single malt from them, and I think you got a sample already, Mike. I'm not sure, Mitch. You're getting a sample when you get the J. Henry one here in a bit. So we'll go over that. It was a 7-year-old when they bought it, but by the time they barreled it, it was 8, and they didn't want to relabel it, so it says 7, which I think is great. And then I did another one where we went to Great Lakes Distillery, which if we come back is in Milwaukee, and we should hit up there because it's Wisconsin's very first distillery, and it is set up nice. I like the way they have it set up for going in and sampling, and as a tourist destination for going there, it's set up really nice. And I think you'll enjoy it, because when we were there, they had all the apples inside for the apple brandy that they make, and it's fantastic. But I'm going to be getting a sample that one of the ones we got, because we were supposed to get 1 barrel, we ended up picking 3. Well, like half of this one and at cast strength, and maybe the other half. So there was some maneuvering, and I got to ask the question. I'm like, oh no, I am not the money. I will give my answers of what I think it tastes like, and maybe what you could do or blend it or which way better. But I am no way the negotiator. But they had they have their bourbon that they finished in stout barrel that was really nice, and that was, I think, the Dirty Helen version. There was a normal, and so
I wish I could get Dirty Helen.
it's finally becoming much more readily available here. For a while, that was like a special release from Great Lakes,
Yeah.
but now it's on the shelves in most of the stores because it's getting to the 4-year bottled and bond mark on a lot of it and stuff. And
that the cast strength rye might get mentioned next week.
yeah.
We went there and we picked up the cranberry and something else liqueur. Those liqueurs and mimosas, very good.
I never thought of that. That is an excellent use.
That's like the only cocktail I make is a mimosa.
Well, I just meant like
biggest terms, right?
But the liqueur stuff that just like as like a little splash on top.
Yeah, like a light, like a float, or just barely mix it in. Yeah, so good.
That might be fun to try with woodhead cordials.
Yeah, the tawny one or either side.
The tawny or the persimmon.
Yeah. Well, I think the tawny. I like the berry on that more, but
the berry.
Yeah, the berry.
The tawny berry is good. The berry, which is
my favorite,
aged in the Rubenesque barrel.
Yeah, that's delicious.
Yeah.
My problem is if I go to Woodhead, I might buy a barrel.
You might buy the distillery. How do you?
Oh yeah, Mitch is gonna buy a distillery. It's not.
Hey.
Mitch could sell his house and still not make the down payment for a distillery.
Just you're both moving. That's for sure. Hey, don't rule it out. That's all. Don't rule it out.
I think I think especially let Gary know you're coming and go out and chat with him. I think talking barrels with Gary, you'll have a
oh my god,
talking grains with him is fun,
fascinating.
But yeah, you get him on the barrel talk, you two will have a lot of fun.
I would love to see he and Alan talk about grain, because to me, Alan and his
they have. It's funny. It's just that Gary, as much as Alan gets on, Gary, it's like turning on a fire hose, and
that's what
they said. Like at the ADA conference, because there was a panel with Robert Licorice, Gary, and Alan. And they're like, once the fire hose went on with Gary, it's like Robert and Alan. We're just like, we're just going to listen to Gary because he was just. He's just this massive knowledge. They all are, but Gary, you're just like, let Gary talk.
Yeah, when we had our cornbread episode, that happened. The same thing where Robert and Alan commented a bit, and then it was the Gary show for me. Which, by the way, his cornbread making was fantastic that day.
Oh yeah,
it was like legit in depth, real making cornbread like we were on a real Food Network show for a minute.
Yeah. Yeah. There's no half-assing with Gary.
No. Talk with Gary.
Well, thank you, Ron. He believes in Ron Swanson's don't half-ass something, whole-ass something.
Yes. Whole-ass one thing. All right. Well, it's getting a little late here. We're over an hour. And I do have to go back to work tomorrow, which I do not want to do. I don't think anyone wants to. But next week, we are going to be going over our craft whiskey awards. And we have a couple of them here. So let's go over the list real close. I'll go down at the bottom. We have the Specialty Spirit of the Year, which is, I want to say, the most contested, but the widest of the categories for me and us. Just because there's a lot in it. There's this year kind of added gin and brandy to that because I haven't had enough to really push what I would say a proper category. I may have had some, but it's not like I was paying attention with a notebook, writing them down when I was at places the whole year. So they're getting kind of put into that. But that is a very, very neat category, and it is usually one of the most exciting for me because it's something on the outside that I found exciting that caught my attention the most. So that's, I don't know, I like that one. Then we have our rye of the year. Of course, a bourbon, the single malt, and the craft distillery of the year. So a wonderful list. It's going to be difficult, but I'm looking forward to going through all of it again. And there's definite. I think the lists are going to be neat because there's sleepers all over the place with this that one or two of us may not have had that someone else has had or hasn't had yet. So I like the way we do it because it gives you an opportunity to hear other people's lists, and there might be two or three that you're like, okay, I got to go try that. Or there's a unanimous winner, and you're like, holy shit, I guess we have to find a bottle. You know, that's a big deal. You get like three people to agree on something. Usually that doesn't go over well, and there's a little arguing about stuff. And, well, I mean, they don't want to admit that, but that's what happens. Someone loses an argument or concedes at some point. So
We won't be arguing.
we won't be arguing. You got your list. I'm sure you can defend it. So, but yeah, so make sure you stop out for that. And then on the 15th, like I said, we'll be having Richard on with James to discuss the Island Getaway Rum, which I'm looking forward to. And I could use kind of that Island Getaway mentality. It's not horribly snowy here, but it's still gross, and I don't like winter. Like, it's almost worse that it hasn't snowed now. I was thinking that the other day, and I'm not normally that person. So make sure you stop out for those shows, and then we'll be kicking off next year. And there's some other neat tastings that might happen and events that we could be going to. So we'll keep you abreast of all the activity. Do you guys have anything to add before we hop off?
No. Just
No.
I hope everyone has a good new year.
Yeah. I hope
A good
everybody has
year.
a great year. Yeah.
Well, that was it. I was going to say someone did something like that, and they're like, I hope everyone has a great year. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do the other side. I hope everyone that no one has, nothing bad happens to anybody.
Yeah.
I'm going the other way. Like, it doesn't have to be great. Let's just, no more bad shit for people. I'm fucking sick of it.
I hope 2024 is better than 2023 for everyone.
I agree. So remember, it's not the size of the den that matters. It's the love of whiskey. Cheers, everyone out there.
Cheers.
Cheers.
What?